This wedding was an assignment for my Religion 2 class in Catholic.
This one's wife, American Riviera Orchard, has officially failed. Here is why. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife was gadding about in Nigeria recently. Perhaps she was trying to drum up more followers for the Instagram site of American Riviera Orchard. Well, if she was, it didn't work. In a country of some 200 million people, her number of supporters, followers, actually dropped following the Nigerian tour. Oh dear. Perhaps if she'd been actually doing some work in relation to American Riviera Orchard and coming up with a far better strategy to launch this beige brand, she might have been meeting with a greater level of success. But as we know, this one's wife fucks everything up because her narcissism isn't up to the job of keeping her in the elevated position that she has achieved, and she doesn't listen to advice because she always knows best. Madam always knows best because her narcissism tells her that she knows best. There's a reason why people are experts. It's so that they, as a consequence of ability, industry, study, repeated practice in a field, become an expert in something so that you can benefit from their expertise. For example, you all benefit from my expertise with regard to the analysis of narcissism and psychopathy as a consequence of what I am and my many years of the study of my kind and our victims, and then the distillation of this information in a form which makes it easy to understand through my work. I'm an expert. Millions of people have benefited from my expertise in gaining a much better understanding of narcissism, which has then enabled them to achieve freedom. You use experts repeatedly. You're feeling unwell, you go to see a doctor. Problem with your tooth, you go to see a dentist. Car won't start, you call a mechanic. Part of your house falling down, you get a tradesman in. Burst pipe, call a plumber. Time and time again, you will rely upon experts. And you are probably an expert in something yourself. I have called upon one of my experts to provide me with an analysis of the American Riviera Orchard launch and to provide her perspective as an accomplished PR professional of considerable standing and many successful campaigns, for her to give me an overview, a forensic analysis of what this one's wife has done with regard to American Riviera Orchard. I'm an expert in narcissism, but I'm not an expert in PR. So I'm going to call on a PR expert to inform me as to what this one's wife has done wrong. And then, of course, we can then scrutinize that through the prism of her narcissism. The summary from my expert is that her campaign has officially failed. Yes, her American Riviera Orchard brand has officially failed. My expert explains that she has undertaken a consideration, a detailed professional PR analysis of American Riviera Orchard's strategy, execution, timing, and outcomes, with the firm conclusion that the brand launch, not just the strawberry jam soft launch, but the whole thing has officially fallen through as of today. This evaluation is something that my PR expert would have done for people working for her or people that she has lectured on the subject. And she explained that with regard to her postgraduate students' campaign project assignment, if they had done this, they would have failed the class, and if it was her junior consultant's plan for a client, they would be sent back to the drawing board with the demand to bury everything, including the brand name. Thus, you can tell from this esteemed expert that the response is, this is a clusterfuck. On March the 14th, American Riviera Orchard launched its website with a minimalist approach. The site featured only the brand name and an invitation to join a newsletter waiting list. It provided no additional information about the products or services the brand would offer. Simultaneously, an Instagram account was created, displaying the ARO brand name across 9 squares. This account followed nobody and disabled comments and tagging, which effectively limited interaction and feedback from potential followers. Now, pausing there, you will know that the reason why comments weren't allowed is because she attracts so much criticism that it was decided to cut off the comments so that they wouldn't be filled with people taking the piss. That is how she deals with that threat to control, prevents the ability to comment, thus in effect stays in a position of withdrawal and asserts that control. But the problem is that limits interaction, it limits feedback, and it limits those that are supporters from feeling that they're having an interaction with her in relation to this new launch. Thus, her need for control stymies the launch of the product. Were she not such an unpopular individual, she wouldn't have to do that, because everybody gets some form of criticism. When you're globally famous or infamous, you're going to get some criticism from somewhere, but generally speaking, if you're good at what you do and you're popular, the dissenting voices are drowned out by the supportive ones, so it's not such a problem. But for this one's wife, she has a huge amount of criticism, justified criticism, based on her behaviour, which means she has to cut off the comments, which then limits interaction and stymies the effectiveness of the launch. In mid-April, the brand took its next significant step by sending out 50 jars of strawberry jam, each numbered to emphasise exclusivity, and this was sent to 50 influencers. However, these influencers were predominantly friends of this one's wife rather than traditional influencers with large followings in relevant niches. Thus, she failed again. Rather than ensuring this was being sent to people that were interested, for instance, in food, in lifestyle brands, she just sent it to her mates. Again, this is a consequence of the fact that she hasn't thought this through, a consequence of the fact that she thinks she knows better, and the grandiosity of her thinking, I'll send it to these people, they'll all talk about it, it'll get loads of publicity. And it did get loads of publicity. Of that, she was a success. But of course, it hasn't actually led to anybody really, other than those friends, showing an interest in the product overall. Most people called it jam scam and laughed at her. Although some of the recipients were celebrities, their areas of influence were not food-related, which likely impacted their audience's reception to the product. Only around 10 of these influencers posted about the jam in their stories, with even fewer making posts on their main feeds. As of today, there have been no further updates or actions from American Riviera Orchard. This extended period of inactivity following the initial outreach likely has led to a loss of momentum and interest among potential customers and followers. Per marketing communication standard timings, a 4 to 6 weeks is a maximum amount of time acceptable, as a gap between the product's soft launch, in this case sending the strawberry jams to influencers, and the product rollout on the market, which provides ample time for generating anticipation and finalising distribution plans. It's been over 6 weeks now since the mid-April soft launch, as per the last week of May. Instead of cavorting half-naked in front of Nigerian school children, this is what Tao should have been doing during this critical period of time. There ought to have been continuous engagement with ARO's audience, and there should have been content creation, more content creation, and more content creation. There ought to have been regular updates and teasers on social media and the website to maintain interest and build anticipation with regard to it going live. Influencer follow-up is vital. She should have encouraged those who received the product to share more content and consider engaging new influencers to broaden exposure. Email marketing should have included newsletters with exclusive updates, sneak peeks, and early access opportunities to keep potential customers excited and generate media coverage. Building a sense of community is crucial through interactive posts, user-generated content, and feedback collection, yet none of that exists. Strategic marketing should have involved targeted ads, retargeting campaigns, cross-promotions with complementary brands or influencers. Clear communication and transparency about the launch timeline with countdowns and regular announcements to help maintain trust and interest were also missing. By focusing on these activities, the brand could have sustained momentum and build anticipation, ensuring a strong product launch. But because of the entitlement of this one's wife, who basically thinks, it's me, everybody will buy it, the fact that she is lazy, nothing has been done. None of the things that my expert has listed there have been undertaken. They might have been suggested by certain advisors, but this one's wife was too busy cavorting half naked in front of Nigerian schoolchildren and snatching bouquets off Harry. No, nothing's been done, and it's too late now. Looking at what she'd produced, the minimalist website and Instagram launch might have been an effective strategy to generate curiosity. What's this? Tell me more. But in this case, the lack of information about the product or services significantly limited initial engagement. While the invitation to join a newsletter was a positive step, the absence of ongoing engagement or content likely caused potential subscribers to lose interest over time. Once again, the arrogance of this one's wife is prevalent. Why should I have to interact with people? They should just come because it's me. The decision to set up an Instagram account without following anyone and disabling comments and tagging might create an aura of exclusivity, but it also risks making the brand appear unapproachable. This could alienate users who prefer interactive and community-oriented brands, i.e., this one's wife would just drive people into the arms of the competition. The execution of the influencer campaign, by sending out exclusive numbered jars of strawberry jam, had the potential to create a sense of urgency and exclusivity. However, the choice of influencers, primarily friends of this one's wife, with limited followings and celebrities outside of the food industry, may not have been optimal. The low engagement rate, with only about 10 out of 50 influencers posting, suggests potential issues such as a mismatch between the influencers' audiences and the product, unclear communication, or a lack of compelling incentives for influencers to share the product. Or there were only ever 10 people she sent it to, and it was the usual smoke and mirrors with this one's wife, and she pretended there were 50. The significant gap between mid-April and the end of May, during which there were no further updates or communications, is a critical issue. Sustaining momentum is crucial in a launch, and the absence of ongoing engagement likely resulted in a loss of interest. Continuous updates, interactive content, and engaging marketing strategies are essential to maintain the audience's curiosity and excitement. Overall, my PR expert, providing her professional impartial view, states that ARO had a promising start with a strategy aimed at creating curiosity and exclusivity. Yet its execution faltered owing to very limited engagement, a lack of continuous updates, and a significant gap between the initial outreach and subsequent actions, which are, indeed, yet to follow, or maybe they won't. In an academic or professional situation, my expert would have offered suggestions as how to proceed with the project. But this project, in her view, is beyond salvation. It's too late now to take any advice. Increasing regular engagement, optimizing influencer strategies, enhancing social media presence, providing clear communication about product availability. In effect, American Riviera Orchard as a brand, before it's even properly launched, is already pushing up daisies. Furthermore, of course, my expert recognizes through my work that this one's wife doesn't listen to anybody. And therefore, how can you relaunch something that failed to launch in the first place? You can't. As my expert states, this patient is dead. She should just drop it in a shallow grave, as she did with numerous projects of hers, and move on to something else. There you have a damning indictment on American Riviera orchard. The patient is dead. She should just drop it in a shallow grave, as she did with numerous projects of hers, and move on to something else. This is the considered opinion of a highly successful PR expert. And of course, all of this failure stems from the narcissism of this one's wife, because she simply believes that people will buy things because it's her, that she doesn't have to put the effort in. And we've seen this time and time again with her content creation, whether it's for the shitty podcast, in relation to Netflix, in relation to the 40 by 40 thing that never got off the ground. She just thinks that if she talks about it, it'll come, it'll manifest, that she doesn't have to put the effort in, that she fails to understand that behind every supposed overnight sensation, there's 5, 7, 10 years worth of hard graft. But she's a lazy, entitled narcissist. And that brilliant forensic analysis of ARO shows that it has officially failed. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.